Hey Saners, welcome to the Thursday night preview. Thanks for waiting. Just having a look at the teams. Appreciate everyone who's commented already. Bo, hi Jake, g'day mate. Hey Shane, hey Catherine, hey Peter, hey Vince, hey everyone, hey Nick. A few people already a bit disappointed about Bytel, but nonetheless, we'll get into the teams and then we'll talk about it. So in terms of our ins, we've got Nick Coffield coming into the team, which is great. He's back after a hamstring injury from about 3 weeks ago. I think he did it against Richmond, so it's been a good 3 weeks for him. Great to have him back. Ideal timing because Tom Highmore, I believe, broke his hand last week and played the last 3 quarters with a broken hand. So it's so good to see that we're luckily enough have Coffield in, but it shows what I've been talking about all year in that we get one player back, we lose one player. We get one player back, we lose one player. So it'd be great to have them both in the same backline, but it is what it is. We have to deal with it. So that's the unfortunate change for the week. And then you've got Dan McKenzie, who is out as well. He's out with concussion, massive hit last week in his tackle. So Claverino, I know some people are going to pin me on that. Claverino's back into the team, which I'm excited about. We need a bit of extra height this week because we're dealing with a serious forward line with Oscar Allen, Josh Kennedy, and of course Jack Darling. And Josh Kennedy is one of the ins for West Coast. Annoyingly, of course, he has to come in back and face us, a team that he usually rips apart. So that's going to be a handful for our back line. And the other one is Paul Hunter. I know a lot of people are disappointed about that, but with Rowan Marshall in lockdown or whatever you want to call it, which I think is a bit ridiculous, but that's what it is. We won't get into it, but we missed Rowan Marshall. Bytel has been listed as omitted, but we'll see the final team whether he becomes the medical sub or not. I know that he was last week and he came on when McKenzie was subbed off, so whether he's that again, I'm not sure, but we can also see Cooper Sharman, who's made the emergencies for the first time, so that's exciting. Loney and Matty Allison as the other emergency. So I see Bytel and Sharman as probably the two likely to be the emergencies, but we'll see when the final team comes out just before the game on Saturday. For West Coast, Waterman's back, Kennedy's back, Hutchings is back, and O'Neill. They lose Williams, Petruccelli, Nelson, Edwards, and Shuey. So they lose a Shuey, which is good. It hurts their midfield, and our midfield's probably been our strength for the last 3 to 4 weeks since the bye. So for them to lose Shuey is great, but they also still have Tim Kelly, Gaff, Yo's back, Dom Sheed, and of course Nick Nat with no Marshall. So, Paddy Ryder's most likely going to have to pick up more of the ruck work than he has in the last 4 weeks. You'd say that he's probably gone 60% to 40% row in the last 3 to 4 weeks, with Rowan Marshall spending a bit of time forward, which has been good for us. But this time, you probably think that he's going to have to take up, probably 80% of it against Nick Nat, which is going to be a big test for Paddy at his age. But we know Nick Nat is great at the centre bounce. He's going to punch the ball, he's going to spike it and try and gain 40 to 50 metres and just hit it directly into the West Coast forward line. But around the ground, it's probably not his strength, and that's something that other rucks have exploited. And Paddy's game around the ground is one of his strengths. So we need to utilise that. We need Paddy to run off and get as much of the ball around the ground as possible. Paul Hunter, I think, probably chops, maybe 10% in the ruck and then probably 10% forward and just plays as another tall. We lose Marshall in the ruck, but we also lose Marshall in the forward line, and that's where I think he's allowed King to get more space. Membry's been able to utilise one-on-ones a bit more and go up the ground and run back. So that flexibility is probably not there without Rowe, but Hunter's probably just going to sit in the goal square, sit around the forward line, and when we kick it in long, he's just got to make a contest, bring it to ground, mate, and then let the smalls do the work. I'm a bit surprised that we didn't change the smalls. With Dean Kent still in, Ben Long's been good, and Butler, who a lot of people during the week commented saying that they thought maybe he would be one that would be dropped, but we've gone in with those 3 smalls. Jack Loney being the emergency, and he kicked 5 a couple of weeks ago for Sandy, so he's been in fairly good form, but they're sticking with that. In such a big game, I can see why they wouldn't have. We've had a couple of forced changes with injuries. I don't think you would want to go overboard with the team chemistry. We probably could have made more changes. I thought Bytel, definite, starter. Even Sharman could have been good if Hunter doesn't want to play forward, play Sharman there and let him play a little bit in the ruck and not too much. And even Loney had a chance to come into the team, but we've stuck with what we've got. We've only gone with really, with really the 3 changes, and on balance, it's probably not the strongest team we've had this year, but the midfield's still strong. Paddy, Dunstan, Jones, Steele, Ross, Billings. The forward line is probably where I'm most worried. Especially when they've got McGovern, Shepherd, Hearn, Duggan. Every time we play West Coast, I just picture McGovern taking like 20 marks. And last week, we kind of did that against Port. That was our downfall. Set shots was one. Ball use in the last 5 to 10 minutes was another. But mainly that kick inside 50 to Alir and to these sort of guys, to Cleary, it just gave it straight to them. They had first use and they walked it out. That pressure was low in the forward line. And that's one thing that during the week St Kilda posted. I don't know if everyone saw it, but they shared a video of Ratton kind of debriefing the team after the loss. And he said in the middle of the ground, the pressure was there, it was strong. But in the D50 and the forward 50, it was non-existent. They could walk it out of our forward 50 too easily with no forward half pressure. And, conversely, they could also just walk it into their forward line, dodge a couple of tackles, and get an easy shot on goal. And that's the example that Brett Ratton showed to the team. And what was interesting was what Cal Wilkie said, which was basically that we try to be too perfect going inside the forward 50. We try to pinpoint passes that aren't there and it turns over. Whereas Wilkie was saying just last year, 2020 Saints footy was get it in long, get in fast to one-on-ones, back the forwards to win that contest, either kick the goal, create a scoring chance, or just hold it in for a repeat entry. And then we can create that sort of team defense where, that's when we're at our best, is when the defenders of the opposition get that pressured ball out. They just hack it out under pressure. And we've got Wilkie, Dukes, Caulfield playing really high up, almost forward of the wing, really. And we just mark it and intercept it and just keep getting it in there until eventually we create a scoring chance. And that's where, what's gone missing for parts of this year. Last week we didn't have it. The previous 3 weeks we had that sort of forward defence and really high team defence from the back 50. It fell away last week, and Port Adelaide, they got away with one. I thought we should have won that game, but they got away with one. And credit to them, they hung around. We stuffed up late. They got their chances. But against West Coast, they're a hard team to judge just like us. Their form is 2 wins of the last 5. They've been pummeled a couple of times. They lost to North, which helped us. We didn't capitalise on it last week, but the week before they lost to North on the Monday night. In Perth, their form at home hasn't been great, although they might have got some momentum back against Adelaide. They kind of pantsed them in the second half of the game. Their small forwards went berserk. Cripps was great. Liam Ryan was great. Langdon was good. And Oscar Allen got off the chain with no Josh Kennedy. So if their form's back and they play their best, it's going to be hard. But if that was just an apparition and we come with pressure and they turn up with the team performance that they turned up with against North, and we can't forget Josh Kennedy played against North. It's not like he's missed the last 3 weeks and they've been shit because he's not been in the team. They've been shit with him in the team. So although we look at it and go, great, Kennedy's back, we're going to lose, Kennedy played against North and they won the game. So we've got, although we've got Marshall missing and Mackenzie's out, we've got some players in the team that probably aren't our first choice, let's be honest. It's still good enough on paper to win this game. And this game's a final. Last week I thought last week's game was really important for us, but this is it. We lose this, I almost have to put a line through us. I don't. I think we've got 3 games remaining for the rest of the year after this, or 4. It's going to be hard, especially if teams around us keep winning. We should have been 7th or 8th going into this game with the win over Port. We're now, I think, as low as 11th. We could have been 12th, but I think GWS losing saved us from that. But it's a massive game. We We played them last year late in the season and they were undermanned. That was a chance to make finals and we coughed it up. The one thing that I think will work in our favour is the bigger ground. I think we suck at Marvel now, and we talked about it on the podcast. We've only won one game at Marvel this year, and every other game has been at the G or interstate. And we've won 8 games. So it's 7 games at the G or interstate, 1 game at Marvel, and I think that was the Hawthorn game that we smashed them. And the North game, sorry. There's 2 there out of our 8 wins at Marvel. The rest away from home on bigger grounds. So if it's not raining and we can get the ground ball going and we can run and spread and handball, I think we can run West Coast off their legs. They're not a fast team. They never have been. Their strength is height. And last week, it might be a good warm-up because Port's strength last week was also height. They knew we were going to go in undermanned and they knew that we wanted to play the ground ball game and play speed. They took that away from us. We weren't clinical enough. And anytime we kicked it long, it was to their tools. And when they kicked into their forward line, they had Dixon, Georgiades, they had Marshall, they had these guys causing problems at the other end. So I think West Coast would look at that Port game and think, when we get it, don't mess around with it. Get it in long to Kennedy, Darling, and Allen. Either they mark it or our smalls who are currently in form will get to work when the ball hits the deck. So we're going to have our hands full in the air and on the ground. So this is going to be a massive test for us. I think it's a blessing that it's away from home. I think we play better, like I said, less pressure. We can go and just focus on the game and not worry about being at home and the advantage that has or whatnot. And we can spread. So fingers crossed the Saints from 2 weeks ago show up and we kick straight and we get the job done. But it's going to be a hard game. West Coast are in the same position as us. They know that if they lose, it's probably curtains for their year. But if they win, they create another gap. I think they're a game ahead of us on the ladder or maybe level. They're currently in the 8. But if they lose and we win, I think we jump on top of them or we get close to bridging that gap between 7th and the rest. So this is a massive game for us. Let's go through some of these comments. Thanks for listening to me rant, guys. Also, hope you're all having a great week. I know it's been, before I get into the comments, I know it's been a tough week with lockdown and businesses and people struggling financially. So if there are any Sainers watching that are going through that, I'm really sorry. And if you need, just someone to talk to, Saints TV's there. Let us know. We're happy to help any way we can. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. But yeah, hopefully everyone's going well. And thanks for tuning in, guys, as always. Let's go through some of these comments. This one's from Bo. What does Bytel need to do to get a game? He's been performing well when he actually gets a chance. I don't know, mate. I thought he was pretty good when he came on as the medical sub when McKenzie came off. He had I think he only had 5 to 10 possessions. I'm not sure what his exact numbers were, but he had 2 or 3 really good kicks on his non-preferred that hit a target, and some players late in the game couldn't hit a target with their preferred foot. So this guy's got skill. I think they probably had issues in other positions on the ground that they needed to fix first, and really who you're going to take out to bring him in. We needed more height in the back line. We needed more intercepting power. We get that with Claverino and Caulfield. If we had an injury to a mid, I dare say he probably plays. But with the ruck and the back line being an issue, I think he's probably just as backup. So I can probably see him as the medical sub again. But fingers crossed he gets more games next year, hey, because he's going to be a star. This one's from Vince. Was hoping to unleash the Sharmanator. I love that name, mate. Hunter been going all right in the 2s. Hopefully translates across now, given another chance. Fair call. I know a lot of people are against Paul Hunter, and he's been pretty poor in a few of his games this year. I know that. It's well documented. He was never going to be, the second or even third option ruck. But when you've got injuries, it forces your hand. But maybe his form at Sandy is gone that well that maybe he's a different beast. He could have that one-off game that's outstanding. We don't have Marshall. He knows he's facing Nick Nat when he's in the ruck, who's one of the best ruckmen going around. Who knows? That might inspire him. He might have one of those games that you look back on in 10 years and go, that guy Paul Hunter, that one good game he had that won us the game when he had 50 hitouts and kicked 5? what's he doing now? I hope that's the sort of game that he has, but I know I'm probably dreaming, but who knows? Even if he doesn't do well in the ruck, to go forward and just create an option and maybe kick a goal or two, that could be all the difference as well. Bytel just tuning in. Do you ever just feel like crying when Rats announces the omissions? Mate, appreciate you watching, but I'm sure you're going to get a game soon. Just keep training and you get a game. Thanks for the comment. This one's from Harry. Keen for Clav to be getting some game time. Yep, he's only played a couple of games this year, again, due to injuries in the back line. But what he's shown some things. He's had some, I think his last game for us was against Sydney in that heartbreaking loss. But he had a great game. He had some good intercept marks. He looks composed. He's a good kick. I'm excited to see him and Caulfield in the same team. I think it's going to help with Wilkie and Dougal-Howard and Webster in good form. I think we've got the back line to handle it, but we just need to ensure that our mids provide enough pressure that the ball's not going in there 20 times a quarter and not in one-on-ones. We're at our best when Highmore, Caulfield, and now Claverino can run off their man and intercept mark and create that third outlet, that punch or mark option. If that doesn't happen, we're in trouble. If it does, we probably are in a winning position in this game. This one's from Greg. So Billings wants to stay. Thoughts on Dunstan and if he wants to stay? I just read that I think Gold Coast have inquired. I don't know if they've offered a contract to Dunstan, but I think that they're interested in him, as well as Matt Crouch. So that's going to be interesting for them. I hope Dunstan wants to stay, but I can completely understand that the club at the start of the year basically said, look, you'll only get games if we're desperate, and we've been proven that. We've had to play him because we've had that many injuries. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he leaves, but I really want to keep him. I think he adds that depth and he adds a bit of grunt that we don't otherwise have, and it allows Steele to get off the chain even more because Steele doesn't have to be that one player to go in and under. He can let Dunstan do that and then play a bit more of an outside role. In terms of Billings, yes, I believe he wants to stay. The club want him to stay as well. I posted that this morning. I think it just comes down to how much he wants and if we can handle that. If he wants to leave, I don't think he's going to demand a first round compensation. So is he really worth getting rid of if it's only a second rounder? What if the second rounder's a dud? You might as well just keep Billings for his good 20 disposal and 1 goal a game averages. And he's been playing with injury. We can't forget he's had plantar fascia injuries, similar to Marshall. He's been playing through it. And even then, he's had 2 or 3 games this year where he's been very good, but he's also had about 5 or 6 where you forget that he's even playing, but he's had 20 touches anyway. So you've got to find that balance. If he agrees to a pay cut and he goes for 500-600, you probably keep him. But if he wants more than that, you might have to say goodbye to good old JB. This one's from Shane. I hope not, mate. I hope we don't miss Marshall. Although you'd say behind Steele, he's probably our second most important player. He just brings others into the game. He makes us stand taller. His ruck craft is great, but you saw last week, he can just find the goals. He plays he has that instinct like a small forward. He just grabs it out of the ruck, hits it on the non-preferred left foot, and kicks a goal at a critical time. Same late in the third, I think he kicked that goal as well. So he's so important to us. He keeps us believing when we're losing, and I think he did that last week and got us into a winning position. And he creates that other option in the forward line, helps Max King, helps Paddy Ryder, helps Tim Membry, can go back and take a mark when we're under pressure. There's so much that Marshall does, but we don't have him. So we can sit here and cry about him not playing and, that's going to be the end of the season. Or we can hope that Paul Hunter pulls something out of nowhere and helps us win the game and put ourselves into a position to make finals, which is probably what I'm going to hope for. Marcus, regular commenter. G'day, Marcus. First game ever I'm going to. Really excited, but worried. Shouldn't expect too much, but willing to support the boys in foreign territory. Mate, just get to the game. I think you've got front row seats, so you got some good seats at Optus Stadium. Just cheer the boys on. Don't think of the result. Just go there and believe. So many of us, and I'm guilty of it, we focus on the result before a goal is even kicked. Even last week, people thought we're going to get done. People thought we were going to get done against Brisbane, even Collingwood, even Richmond. Every bloody week, people are pessimistic, have no belief, and are willing to just go there and think that the game's done before the first bounce is even bounced. Let's go there and just hope that the boys win. Let's just do that. Watch. If we get done, we get done. But I'm not one to give up before, the first siren. You do that at halftime. If we're getting done by 10 goals at halftime, then you can say, well, I'm not expecting too much now. But don't go into the game thinking that, because then that just eventuates. I find that the more I believe when we're underdogs, the more likely we are to win. Most games this year we've won when we're underdogs, when we've had our backs against the wall, when people don't expect it. So that's very much like this week. So fingers crossed we pull that sort of performance out like we did against Brisbane. It's going to be tough, but I expect a lot as well, So I've got high standards for us most weeks. Yep, there you go. Good response, Catherine. Cheer loud and proud for us. Enjoy. That's exactly right. We're going to be outnumbered there. There's going to be a lot of West Coast fans that think we're going to be an easy kill because of the injuries we have and the form we showed last week. But prove them wrong, Saners. Get to the game, cheer loud, sing some songs, and let's hopefully that just creates the energy to get the boys over the line. AJ, mate, I'd be happy to. I posted a video of my highlights reel a couple of weeks ago. Not sure how many people saw that, but capable. Put me in the forward pocket. I'll lay, a modest 1 to 2 tackles, and I'll kick 1 goal too. So if that's enough for the team, I'm happy to put my hand up. But hopefully that's the last of the injuries, and we can get it over with, get some players back, see if Dan Hanbury's fit when we get back into Melbourne. And, hopefully Mackenzie can be back fit as well. He'll have that 1 week off. And obviously Marshall comes back after his lockdown. So fingers crossed we'll get some big names back for the big games in the next 3 weeks. Yep, exactly right. Paul Hunter just needs to play his role. Like I said, just if he's in the ruck, just take out Nick Nat Nui's knees, deny him the punch, just even shepherd it, just all block it, smother it. Don't even go for the hit. You're going to lose it 9 times out of 10. Just go for the ball, block the ball, and just create repeat stoppages. Play a defensive-minded game. With Paddy and Marshall, they can probably elect to go more offensive. With Paul Hunter, he doesn't have the skills, the finesse like Nick Nat to do that. So play defensive, block the ball, create repeat entries, repeat stoppages, and hope that the midfield gets on top that way. Just got to play a smart game, but a basic game at the same time. Cooper Gretsch, welcome, mate. Caulfield, Cleverino, an embarrassment. An embarrassment, that's harsh. Still not naming Frawley or Loney, and still keeping in Ben Long, taking the you-know-what. Yeah, I don't know. I think Caulfield for Heimer was probably always going to be the pick. We needed that. Cleverino's been good. I don't know if he's done anything wrong in his games, but, you're open to your opinion. Frawley, we did play him in a few of our blowouts and it didn't work out. He played on Hawkins and it worked, but obviously he's been coming. I think he came back from a hamstring or a leg injury anyway, so he might not be fit enough. And Loney, we've given him chances and he hasn't taken them, so I can understand why they're keeping him out of the team. Whether he's looking around for another club is another question as well. But yeah, I'm happy with the ins and outs. We'll see it full time who's right, but at the moment I think they're good enough to get the job done. Frawley, 50-50. Loney doesn't show enough, and I think Caulfield and Cleverino have shown enough at their best to warrant being selected. I reckon you got to throw in some forward time. You definitely got to throw in some forward time. I'd go 10% ruck, 10% forward, and then 80% bench, if I had to pick. Yep, there you go. Catherine reckons Coops, against Coops' comment, Clav's going to be a superstar. You got to give him time. He's got the ability to be a good player for us. Yep, and there's some other news there, AJ. Jack Sinclair, 3-year deal, fantastic news. Now we just need to see news of Dunstan, of Billings as well, and see if they're willing to re-sign. But this is a good start. Sinks has had, career best numbers this year. A bit of a down year last year, but he got going later in the year and he's followed up this year and been one of our best most weeks. So he'd probably be top 5 in my best and fairest at the moment, and he definitely deserves that 3-year extension. So that's great for us. Yeah. That's an obvious, Thomas. Big game this week. Our last chance to stay in the finals race. Let's hope we don't buckle under the pressure, because last week we had a chance to make it a bit easy for ourselves and beat Port and be in the 8 at this time, but we didn't do that. And now we've got to do it the hard way. We have to win at least 3 of the next 4. The only game I can see us maybe dropping is Geelong and Geelong. The rest we need to win. We need to win this week. We need to beat Carlton. We need to beat Sydney and beat Fremantle in the last game of the year to have any sort of chance. Even then, percentage might be a problem, but hopefully we can make up some percentage in the next 4 weeks. But just getting the 4 points is going to be where we need to start. Just get 4 points every week and see what happens. Luke, mate, that would be crazy. I couldn't believe his numbers last week. Even in a losing side, I swear no player in the competition is going to poll more votes than Jack Steele and the Brownlow in losing games. I can already count maybe 4 or 5 games where even the games where we got hammered in the first part of the year, he still had 35 and kicked goals. Surely he's going to sneak 1 vote, even 2 votes. Even last week, Ollie Wines will get the 3. I reckon Jack Steele can get the 2 and Georgiades with his 4 will get the 1. Jack Steele's going to poll very well at the Brownlow, more so than last year. I think he got 20 to 21 votes last year. I reckon he's going to poll closer to 30 this year the way he's going. He's been outrageous this year. Every week, he's getting 30 to 35 disposals. He's laying 8 to 10 tackles, and he's good for a goal or 2. Yeah, so he's getting more of that game going. He's goal kicking, and that's the difference between really good midfielders and elite midfielders like Dusty and Danger and Petrarca and Bont. They kick goals when they're forward, but they get a lot of the ball too. So he's going to have a big game. We know he's going to have a big game, but it's about everyone else supporting him and having big games themselves. So we know what Steele's going to deliver, but we need to hope that everyone else can follow suit. Yes, of course. 3 wins at Marvel. It now accumulates. Of course, the last time we played them, we were 5 goals down, I think, in the 3rd term, came from behind in a crazy game and won the game at Marvel. So that's 3 games. Thanks, Vince. Thanks for the reminder. This one's from Nathan. Just need to kick straight, Jakey. Defense between the arcs has been outstanding this year. Just got to get it on the board. That's a great call. Our last 4 weeks, even though we lost last week, we still conceded only, I think, 74 points, which was still quite low. So we're averaging, no more than 10 goals a game in the last 4 to 5 weeks. And even the game against Adelaide that we lost before the bye, we only conceded 60-odd points, I think. So in the last 5 to 6 weeks, we're probably the best defensive team in terms of points against. We just aren't very good at capitalising when it's in our forward 50. Whether we create enough chances is one question, and whether we take those chances is another. But we know the answer to that. We don't. We need to take our chances on the weekend, because if we don't, it's going to go up the other end. Darling, Kennedy, Allen, and their smalls, they're going to kick goals. They're straight kicks. They're clinical when they're on, and we just have to assume that they're going to play their best. And that means we're going to have to take our chances when we get them. Yes, Emmett. Good call, mate. Where is your comment? Where is it? Ooh, not a bad call, Luke. Should we pick up 2 of our academy players? I hope so. I mean, they're looking good. I'm hearing a lot of good things about the academy, which is great. Sandy, it's hard to look at all the youngsters there and who's coming through. We've drafted a few youngsters that haven't played yet, and Allison and Sharman. Vital obviously coming through. We've got Burns, Connolly. Great to see him retain his position because he's going to be a superstar. But our academy kids are looking very special, so hopefully we do. We need to reward that that development and continue it at an AFL level. There's no point having academy players go to waste and they're proving their worth. And I think, you look at Sydney, they've got their own academy, and some of the best teams have their own dedicated academies. We need to utilise ours, and hopefully we can find some stars from that level. Another one from Luke. If Robert Harvey doesn't get the Collingwood gig, we should pick him up in the off-season. Rats was apparently a huge fan of his work at Carlton. And I think he was in the running before Rats got the gig as well, I believe, for the St Kilda role. And then he went back to the Collingwood role. I'd love to get him at the club if he doesn't hold his position at Collingwood, which is looking likely. I think they're still asking around and they're looking like maybe Scott could be a good call for Collingwood. But imagine getting him and Lenny Hayes. Lenny Hayes left GWS. He wanted to have a break from football. That was last year. He's had the year off. It'd be so good to have Robert Harvey and Lenny Hayes back as kind of that team midfield coach and maybe assistant coach with Rats with Robert Harvey. So that'd be awesome. The more St Kilda people back at the club, the better for me. I really want Rui to come back. I'd love to see maybe Max Hudson as a defensive coach or something. Even Milne come back and teach Gresham and Butler and Loney and these guys a trick. As small forwards, so that'd be awesome as well. But yeah, that'd be a start getting Robert Harvey. That would be huge. And we'll go with maybe one more. Let's go with this one. Goodwin, he's asking, Jay, can you ask some feedback from your audience? Why hasn't Sam Alabakis been given a look? He's been there for 3 years now. Fair call. Any other watchers right now? That's Goodwin's comments. Why isn't Sam getting a gig? My answer is he's still a bit raw. He needs to be developed. He's got height, but he still needs to learn the game. It's like a lot of basketballers, a lot of other athletes coming from other sports, rugby players coming into the AFL. They're athletically gifted. They're tall. They're fast. They can do all that stuff, but they still need to learn game sense. And, Hunter Clark, for instance, he's born with game sense. He just knows the game. He doesn't really have the physique for it right now, whereas Sam's got the physique to be a ruckman, but I don't think he's learnt the game sense just yet. But I guess some people would argue that you learn that from playing games. So, yeah, I think that he's going to be on the list for the next couple of years, I think. I don't know what his contract's like, but it'd be nice to get him a game and just to see what he does. Even Jason Holmes got a game or two a couple of years ago. For us, the American, we've got another tall American now. I think he's 212 or 13 centimetres. He's the same height as Mason Cox from Collingwood, so it'd be nice to give him a gig just to see where he's at. Because it's hard to judge at Sandy and any other level, at training even. Give him a game, see how he goes, but I can completely understand that we've got Ryder, Marshall, and Paul Hunter's had more ruck time at other levels and been good at it, so I can see why he's getting picked over Sam, that's for sure. I'll leave it there, guys. I'll leave it on this prediction. That'd be nice. King to kick 5 against the Eagles, easy. Again, 10 goals against the Eagles in 1 year. That'd be nice in a second year AFL footy, especially when a lot of people still think he's not as good as Ben King. So that'd be nice. If he does that, we win. If Jack still has 40 and kicks 3, we win. If we take our chances, we will win. I can imagine we will get enough of the ball to create looks in the forward line. It's just whether we can lower the eyes, because they've got some good backmen. Even out of form, McGovern is always going to be there to intercept mark. We need to create chaos, and we need to play smart. But this is a game we can win, guys. Don't go into this game thinking it's lost before the first bounce. Please, you will not enjoy the night. I've done that too many times over the year, especially when this feels like a final. Go into this feeling like the elimination final last year against the Dogs, because that's what it is. We lose, the season's done. We win, it's going to feel like finals is that much closer, even though the work's not done yet. And we know how we all celebrated after that win against the Dogs last year. The champagne came out, balloons. I might not go that far, but this is going to be a big win if we can pull it off away from home. And then whether the fixture changes, we stay in Perth and play Freo there next week, remains to be seen. But then the week after, we could play Carlton if the fixture stays the same, which is a winnable game as well. So I'll leave it on that note, guys. Enjoy your Thursday night, your Friday night, and come 4:35 on Saturday. Get your Saints gear on, get a glass of red if you want, order some Greek, some pizza, whatever you want, and cheer the boys on, because it's a massive game. We need to believe in them. I think, at times the team struggles to believe in themselves, but when they don't believe, we need to bring that energy and and just support them from afar. And at the game, anyone going to the game, sing some songs, scream "Go Saints" every goal, and create an environment where the club can thrive. So that's all I got to end this on, guys. Thanks again for watching. The podcast is out. I've put the podcast on YouTube as well, so appreciate everyone watching it. We're going to start doing some video podcasts, so hopefully you enjoy that. Some Paddy Ryder merch is now out, so go to the Saints TV store. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. Purchase it there, and thanks for everyone for purchasing if you've purchased already. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and I'll see you after the game on Saturday, hopefully talking about a massive win against the West Coast Eagles at Optus Stadium. But until then, guys, go ye mighty Sainers. See you guys.